How did you both get started in MMA?
I think we'd get home from school and we'd probably, well, me especially, end up playing hours and hours and hours, like 8 hours of PS2, and then go to bed, and that was the routine. And then at some point, I think we just decided we're not doing anything, we need to get something done. I thought, what sports do we actually like? Well, sports are rubbish, but boxing's good. The closest thing to us was Thai boxing. I think you did some shiny pants kickboxing.
Yeah, I did one session of shiny pants kickboxing. Well, I did one session before I did Thai boxing, but then I did like shiny pants kickboxing alongside Thai boxing for a few months because I was going with my mate from school. And then ended up just sort of, I don't know, just gravitated more towards Thai boxing. Felt more real. There was like Shogun Hua, who was like the first fighter we were a fan of. And he was a Muay Thai guy, he was like a Thai boxing guy, so it was all like, oh, we're doing what Shogun Hu was doing.
Yeah, it listed his 2 styles on UFC Undisputed 2009, BJJ and Muay Thai. I'm like, Muay Thai, that's what Shogun does. And when you hold L1 and press circle, you do a flying knee.
Oh!
I want to learn that.
When did you meet Pete and when did you meet Abdul, your coaches now?
So we started in Muay Thai. We always liked MMA more, but we were just doing Muay Thai because Kin Brown Thawang, our first Thai coach, was just that good. We were like, well, we can't not keep doing this with Kin. He's an amazing coach.
And then once you find out about Muay Thai fighters, you know, you would give me DVDs of Blackout's training programs and I'd watch. There's a single Blackout highlight where every single day when I got home from school, I'd load up YouTube on the PS3 and watch in 240p the same Blackout highlight.
With Holler At Me by Tupac on it.
Yeah, it was actually 2. There was one with a version of Holler At Me by Tupac, and there was another one with some rap version of Made in Thailand. And I watched those 2 highlights again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
So I really fell in love with Muay Thai, but even when we started, we always wanted to move across to MMA.
Yeah, and then it just naturally made sense because Ken moved back to Thailand. So Stephen Long was our coach for a while, but obviously he didn't own that gym. And then once he'd left that gym, Stephen Long started teaching here at Middlesbrough Fight Academy. And that's just where we've been since. We followed Longy here, started training under Abdul Mohammed. I think just a perfect fit for was coming from a striking background to come into a gym with like a real world-class MMA wrestler. And then it gone from the Blackout highlight to
Cain Velasquez
Cain Velasquez highlight with Go to Sleep on it.
Yeah, it was, and then now I would get home from school and watch that every day.
And then so we just...
It's like the first UFC event we watched, the 104. That was the first time we sat down, got up the telly, it was obviously a recording because it was on stupid at night, and watched through the event. The first ever fight we ever watched was Anthony Johnson versus Yoshiyuki Yoshida, where it was a 30-second KO where Anthony Johnson missed weight by 5 pounds or something. That was our first ever fight we watched, but the first fight that blew my mind was Cain Velasquez versus Ben Rockwell.
And then obviously the headliner of that fight was Shogun Hua, getting robbed because Cecil Peoples thinks leg kicks don't win fights.
How much of them old fights that you used to watch when you were younger that informs your style today?
I think I learned a lot by doing impressions of fighters. That's how I learned a lot of things. So like I'll go through spells where I'd be like, right, I'm Shogun Hua now, or right, I'm Cain Velasquez now. But I think the biggest ones were like Anderson Silva and the Diaz brothers. Even though like the Diaz brothers are hugely technically flawed, there was just things that I really liked about what they did. And then like those 2 guys, the styles just gelled with me. So like trying to copy that sort of like mix the Anderson Silva and that Diaz style was really...
I think there's like different points, fucking nexus points, if it was a shitty Terminator film, we'd call it. But there's different points. Obviously the early, there's like the Cain Velasquez, and then there's the Muay Thai guys you're watching like Blackout. Sakadao Petpayatai was a big one because I was a clinch fighter and he was a really good clinch fighter. Sakadao I watched loads. And then a big thing was TJ Dillashaw. I remember being really amazed by his fight with Henan Barao, that first win over Henan Barao. And that kind of changed the whole sport almost to a fault, because everyone was doing pointless stance switches non-stop. But then that informed my style for a bit, and then you go through different Holloway. And a big one for me, and this was like before the return to Cage Warriors, something that I just started to sink time into. Absolutely loads of time was just Japanese kickboxing, J kickboxing. Like Takeru Sagawa, Masaki Noiri, Masashi Kimura, Akihiro Kaneko. All these guys, and that's where a lot of the development of the body shots and combination striking came from.
What would you describe that relationship like between the two of you? You must spend so much time together every day in, day out.
Yeah, it's not ideal. We make do. You know, we are forced to spend too much time together. Probably quite sick of each other's company. We're more comfortable when the other one isn't talking. But you know, it's all good.
Yeah, it's to a point where, like, you know, the night before a fight, normally you'd be staying in the same hotel as your coach. I'd be staying in the same room as Harry. I'm just like, fuck that. I don't care what I have to pay. I don't care what financial repercussions. I'm going to pay for this extra hotel room. Whether it's late notice in London, I don't care. I need that bit to myself before a fight. But in terms of the broader relationship, you know, there's no one really sparred with each other. I can't think of anyone, possibly in the world, who sparred with each other more, held pads for each other as many rounds as we have. You possibly think, you're looking at Thai fighters like, you know, like the Sitchapur twins. You're looking at people like that. In terms of everyone else in the world, especially in MMA, there's probably a very, 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 very limited fraction, if anyone, that spent as much time drilling technique, sparring, hitting pads with each other.
Yeah, so there's this weird thing where there's an arms race with each other in sparring where we're like trying to, you know, like develop a measure, countermeasure, measure, countermeasure, measure. But we're also helping each other develop the countermeasures and the measures as well. It's very strange. It's like an arms race where we're helping each other build each other's weapons.
Yeah, and we had a little change at one point, because there was a time where every single fight, we talk about every single fight we watch and go into every single MMA fight or boxing match we watch and talk about the technique, and the Muay Thai fights and talk about the technique, and we share that information with each other. And we'd end up, we were like mirrors. It wasn't just we were doing the same moves, it was we were doing the same moves at the same time. Both throwing left kicks and kicking each other in the shin. Both throwing right kicks, both throwing jabs at the same time. It's like a mirror. It's like that little
MGS4.
It's like the little bit in the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, that fight scene. So what we started doing is we started watching different fights to each other, getting little technical influences and keeping them secret. I'm like, I'm not telling Harry. I only want to, you know, we're back and forth like this. I'll only want to tell Harry about a move if I've landed it on him 10 times, and he's the same. We don't want to give it away just yet. And I think we've developed loads off of that. And we've developed into like different style fights.
Yeah, so many like top fighters coming out of the Northeast at the minute. Yeah, Mick Parkin's another example, who's fighting on UFC. What do you think that is at the minute? Let's, bring Northeast out.
Fuck all to do around here, so we just scrap each other.
We're proper fucking hard bastards. Fucking developed in the mines and the factories. Hard as fuck cunts us. There's metal in our water and fucking smog in the air.
And bechamel on our chicken.
You've neither of you shown any like want or need to travel. Well, obviously you spar elsewhere sometimes with other people, but you're quite content staying in Middlesbrough. Why is that?
Because it's just the best training environment I've ever encountered. Like, it genuinely is the best training environment I've ever encountered for developing a full, rounded, blended MMA skill set. That is what Middlesbrough Fight Academy is. You know, you look at the fighters who come from here, they're all good everywhere. We managed to pull off like pure wrestling shit you don't see in MMA often. We pull off like almost like pure kickboxing style combos. There's like that. We've taken all these bits from these other martial arts forms but we're not tied to them. We're still blending the skills in an appropriate MMA specific way.
And in terms of UK MMA, obviously Leon Edwards winning the UFC title and training out of the UK to win that title is a big Roger Bannister moment for UK MMA. It's going to show people the game has changed. It's not like collegiate wrestling is what makes a difference. You know, when I thought, look, there's this gym here, we got everything we need, but it's held together by dreams and duct tape and cable ties. We got everything we need to train, but it's not like some fancy pants, global gym like dodgeball. And then we came across, when I won the title, AKA. I was fighting someone who had collegiately wrestled since college obviously, but he was practicing wrestling since he was 3 or 4 years old. That's what I heard. Division 1. Couldn't get a takedown on me once. That's because I've been training with Abdul since day 1.
Is that what you attribute it to then, Abdul Muhammad?
100%. I attribute pretty much everything in MMA to Abdul. It's all Abdul and Harry. And Pete.
God damn it.
Well, from day 1, yeah.
Yeah, well, day 1, that is the thing. We have Pete as one of our coaches from the very beginning. I actually fought one of his fighters in my first fight.
That's Pete Irving.
Yeah, Peter Irving. But he's just helped massively because like our jiu-jitsu before was very standard. It was like we had good wrestling, good ground and pound, good striking, but the jiu-jitsu was very
Sport jiu-jitsu.
yeah, it was more sport jiu-jitsu.
IBJJ, yeah. This is your point. This is your submission attempt. Okay, you lose position, but it's alright.
Yeah, whereas Pete's developed this like controlling, like fighting jiu-jitsu style with us.
With the lineage of Crezio de Souza.
So like
A lot of what, and you can go and watch Valetudo tapes of this, because a lot of people felt Khabib's completely changed the game of MMA, which obviously has developed a huge amount of techniques that have changed the wall wrestling, mount control. But there's a lot of what he talks about. Jiu-jitsu is all arms control the legs. When you mount, it should be all about your legs. But if you go back and watch these Valetudo tapes of Crezio de Souza, our coach Pete, he was doing this back in the 80s, 90s.
He had a wrestling background as well, so it was very like his jiu-jitsu had a lot of elements of wrestling in. Like it wouldn't be like half guard for the sake of half guard, side control for the sake of side control, mount for the sake of mount.
Obviously, both Pete and Abdul are very much like OG UK MMA guys before MMA in the UK was what we know it is today. What's what does that bring? Because obviously very different to what it was back then.
I mean, it's like they know many things we should do, but then they're also trained in the dumb days, and they know a lot of stuff we shouldn't do, and they tell us not to do it.
And it's because a lot of newer generations of people who start MMA, because it's all established now. There's multiple gyms in Middlesbrough. There's multiple gyms here, there. Every city there'll be multiple gyms, and they can just walk in, pay £5, whatever, and they can come in and train. Whereas us, we have that appreciation for what people had to do, like our coach Abdul had to do to train back in the days where it wasn't established in the UK. We know stories of our coach Abdul getting just his training partners together. He puts down 4 mats in just a regular gym, and they're sliding around as he shoots, but he's just getting his sparring in there because that's what he has to do. And he was training to fight and training to beat black belts from Brazil, world-class fighters from Brazil that he was beating in cage rage. And that's the training situation he was in. So a lot of people who start MMA today need that appreciation that it wasn't long ago you couldn't just step into an MMA gym and have 10, 20 guys to train with. So we've got that appreciation instilled in us because we have these coaches, Abdul and Pete.
Yeah, like Abdul's.
Does that inspire you?
100%.
Abdul's first gym, this was before we started training, it was in a shop. It was about, maybe the whole gym was smaller than the cage. Like they had to really alter their training sessions because there wasn't enough space for more than 2 people to be wrestling at once. Pete, to learn jiu-jitsu, had to go to Brazil for 6 months every year for a couple of years. Yeah, we're spoiled at the minute. We're definitely spoiled, but yeah, like, you've got to appreciate what they've done.
Long term in both the sport and just in life in general, what are your aspirations?
I want to win a major world title in MMA, and then I want to coach multiple people to win major world titles in MMA. Like, I don't really, there's maybe like little goals like get a house and this and that, but like I don't have a lot of goals outside of MMA. When I'm done with fighting, I'm a coach. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I want to get all the way to the top of the lightweight division. It's the premier division in the sport, which makes you kind of like the premier athlete in the sport. More than that, it's the moment to moment of doing it every day, hitting the pads. People always view it like this. You do a horrendous training camp, you get to the end, see if you get a win. If you get a win, then you're happy. And it doesn't work like that. It's the moment to moment expressing this physical frame that you're only going to have for a brief period of time. You're not going to be at that peak level all your life. Whether that's just you're hitting the pads or you're just doing rounds, you're sparring, you're preparing yourself for that fight and then the fight itself, that is the dream. And nothing else comes close to that. That is top of the tier list. That is triple S tier. Just being able to move your body around and be. It's like this dichotomy. You're a competent martial artist who's confident in what you can do, whilst being aware how shit you are at so much of it and how much you have to do. Which is, I don't know, it's like the essence of it, which is really amazing.